Welcome back to BOCI TV and welcome to BOCI Mississippi, everybody. Welcome on our virtual audience as well as BOCI Nashville and all around the world that are watching right now. What we're doing here in this focus group is we are focusing on the Q&A for making sense of your business. Sense being C-E-N-T-S. How many of us want to make more money?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I'm sure hands were raised all over the place. So go ahead and tweet in a question for us. During this focus group, we're going to focus on Q&A with the expert, Nita Black, answering our questions. And our Twitter handle is @BOCoffee, #BOCI. So let's go ahead and get started with some of the questions and comments that have come in on Twitter. We have Gina Davis says, Nita, I'm several years into my business, but recently there have been many changes. Should I redo a business plan?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I think as things change, for me, a business plan is just a working document. So you finish it temporarily, but you never really finish it unless you close your business. So as long as you're still in business and ongoing, it's good to just review and enhance and take things out that don't work and add things that you wanna add and that do work and stick with the core business.
So is this something that you recommend Gina does on her own, or is this something she should do with someone
Well,
in terms of a business plan?
it can work either way. I think it's always good to get other people's opinion. I think it's good to get feedback. I get feedback on my business plan, so I could probably sit at my home and write for a week and a half and not really ever go outside.
Right.
And that is not really who I'm selling to though. So communicating my thoughts to myself and to others on paper and then getting feedback from other people, I think is valuable. And, a lot of times you really find clarity.
Sure, absolutely. I have a question for you. For someone who's on a lower budget with their business, and maybe they're not in the position within their budget to hire you hourly, do you provide a startup kit for those individuals, maybe a template for them to write their own business plan and things like that?
I have formed, actually I went live this week with jobshatchery.org. And what I've decided to do is put all my pro bono and my free work under that nonprofit. And work with other professionals who will donate their time as well. So I do have a template, startup business plan that I can make available to people. And then I use a template cash flow budget. And then we'll allocate a certain number of hours to work with those companies to do that, so yes.
And that's through jobshatchery.org, not through Mount Momentum.
Yes.
So you formed a nonprofit to really hone in on that, and then you have your for-profit where you can work with people who have the budget to hire you and that type of thing. Now, tell us why someone would come to you through Mount Momentum versus going to jobshatchery.org.
Well, an example of a paying client that I have is a community bank where they pay on an hourly basis and I invoice monthly and they pay me monthly. And they have capacity to pay and it's a bigger system. So this is a company that has maybe 300 employees, but a gap in a part of one of their operational divisions. So banks, small banks, and then second stage companies say between 500,000 in sales and 10 million in sales, where they've grown, they can't afford a full-time CFO, but they can afford to start paying someone part-time until they can hire someone on a permanent basis. So it's either on a project or maybe a short-term basis until they grow enough to be able to afford
to move to the next level. So Graham, do you have any questions for Nita?
I guess my main question is, I've just started my business up. I've worked for many companies through the years as sales and designs and stuff like that. And now I've got my own little startup company going on. And I worry about having too much inventory. What I do is I don't actually have too many products to sell, but I have some sort of inventory for doing sheetrock work or insulation and spray foam, different products like that. And I guess I even consider gasoline for my generator and stuff like that, as part of it. but, I get caught up sometimes, I think I need to have a whole bunch of this stuff, and, how do you really project, I guess would be the thing, what your upcoming,
Especially when you're
budget's gonna be.
starting out, you don't
Mhm.
have that history.
I have no history or anything.
Well, from what you told me, you're working on a project basis, so you might
Yes,
have
ma'am.
a home or a couple of homes in a neighborhood,
Mhm.
and so you've got project budgets.
Right,
So,
exactly.
probably you don't need much of any inventory, unless it's gonna take you a while to get something that's critical to do in that job.
Right,
So when you get the job, then you're gonna start, say, Monday or a week from Monday, that gives you time to
that's
buy
right.
supplies. So that's some, for me, based on what I know, that's the most efficient for you, is that you don't
Cost
need.
effective.
And I don't need to have that much of an inventory, cause I can use the local warehouse, the other supply houses, I guess, to be my warehouse, I suppose.
But you're project driven, so every project really needs to make money.
Absolutely.
And so you have a little different from, say, someone else. It's almost like each project is a business plan in a way, and a
Mhm.
budget, a specific budget with some overhead allocation to that. And then you take that money and work on another project. And then it also could, imply that how many employees you need.
Mhm.
So if you've got 10 projects going on at one time, can you handle that? And could you handle it, and what kind of resources would you need for that? But you wanna inch toward that, right?
that's-
As opposed to jumping into, property
Oh, yeah.
management.
If
all of a
somebody
sudden.
gave me 10 houses to I could not do it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. I am gonna have to grow slowly, and that's what I'm trying to do.
For those of you who are watching, you're watching BOCI TV, and I'm Sherry Henley here with our expert Nita Black, MapMomentum.com. We are in a focus group about making sense of your business, that's CENTS. And we have the sales agency that is here in the building with us, that would be Sean Carroll Sandy, who says, making sense of your business, what are the most important tools for organizing biz finances?
I would say cash flow. I would say 99.5% of the time, I'll start with cash flow. I'll start with a cash flow, projection. Because if you tell me you're going to sell widgets, then I'm gonna put that in your cash flow budget. If it's widgets type A, widgets type B, and so the cash flow will help me determine what you expect, and also as the owner, you know what to expect out of your business in terms of how much money you need, what your margins are gonna be, what your cost of inventory, if you have any, is gonna be, what your rate of growth. And so at least a 12-month cash flow projection would be my suggestion for a core start of a business. And usually what I do is I do a quick and dirty, spend an hour, hour and a half for a 12-month cash flow forecast. Then we do a lot of non-financial stuff, evaluation, what the competitors are doing, who are the competitors, and the price, some market analysis in terms of pricing, then come back and redo the cash forecast at the end of that planning cycle. So you start with financial, assuming that you've decided what you wanna do. If you know what your sweet spot is, the selling agency, that's your sweet spot. Now, if you're a photographer and you're not sure if you want to weave baskets or sell jewelry or make pictures, then we start with something a little different.
Okay.
Did
Does
that
that
answer
help?
your question?
Well, it did, being a service-based business, I have, really very, very little, overhead. It's, most of the overhead is gonna be fees for membership and groups and associations. So, the majority of what I do is a lump sum, whether it's a retainer or project work. There's not a lot of, I don't have, a lot of margins to put into things. I factor my time that way, but I don't have inventory, and I don't have, cost of services. And my employees or contractors, they get a paid commission, so it's very interesting. So wanna know, that help me start with what tools I need to track and manage and make sure that I have the visibility into my finances to make good decisions about the business.
Well, I think one tip for you, or this, a business coach was telling me,
Mhm.
if you decide how many hours a week you wanna work,
Right.
and how much money you wanna make
Mhm.
every week. And divide that amount of money by the number of hours you wanna work.
Mhm.
In a service business, that's gonna tell you your hourly rate.
Right.
And then you price that into your proposals when you do, even if it's a lump sum job,
Mhm.
time is money for you, that's what you're selling it, so that's the end, so they're only, if you work 12-hour days, 7 days a week, that's max, you know. If you only wanna work 30 hours a week, then that adjustment is made in your pricing, and then of course you look at how you can compete on that basis,
Right.
and how much money you wanna make,
Right.
so.
So the tools, for instance, would you recommend QuickBooks, or what type of tool would you recommend for an overview of a monthly report or something like that?
Well, I usually, look for free templates on Microsoft
Okay.
Office, so Excel spreadsheets, I've got some really simple, if you wanna start out really simple with something, if it's a weekly cash forecast, or if it's operating expenses, you can start out very simply with one spreadsheet to work as your core document, and in the past, at times I've even kept my budget, my cash forecast in my purse, and if I'm out shopping and I'm getting ready to buy a coat or
Oh, that's
something,
smart.
because
That's
even on,
dangerous.
like, when money's tight, I mean, I've only got a certain amount of money to buy clothes. And so I'll look at my budget, and if I have enough money in that budget on paper, I can pull it out, and I can say, okay, it's okay, Nita, you can go buy that coat, because I've got the money in the bank and it's in my budget. But it's also a discipline for me that if it's not on my written budget and I'm carrying it around with me, and I'm using it as a tool, really a tool, then, and it's not on there, then it's, okay, I gotta wait to buy that coat.
Right.
And then I go back and make other goals.
And you know,
to-
speaking from the technology standpoint, there has to be a way to have an app on your phone that does this. Does anyone know of an app? If you know here in the building, let us know. If you know out there, let us know what that app would be.
Well, one thing that you were talking about is deciding on that, how much sales you want, how much, do you wanna work? Here's where I struggle is, I know I have to work in my business and work on my business. So how do you combine those two things? Cause when you're working on your business, you're working on part of it, it's very important, but that part of it does not make you money. You have to work in your business to make the money.
Well, that becomes your overhead factor.
Yeah.
So, if you are going to bid a project, and it's a 10-hour project, you've got some sort of allocation of, if you bid, for every project, and there's statistics online, you can kind of read and see how many hours it takes you to prepare for a project and then actually work on a project. And so preparing, like doing a workshop, for every hour of a workshop you do, you've got at least an hour of prep.
Yeah.
And so that becomes part of your proposal, or some sort of overhead
You have to
allocation.
include that in when
Yes.
you're doing that, how much I wanna work a week, how much I wanna make a week, that's
Mhm.
part of it also.
Right, and also knowing your fixed expenses, so if you know you've got, fixed expenses for me are half a day a week of marketing, 2 hours, a week of, invoicing, or financial, so you take all the core components in your business, working on your business in terms of if it's, recording a trademark, or all of the intellectual property, that takes time, so allocate on your weekly, schedule, on your monthly schedule of activities, that becomes your overhead factor depending on how many hours you're gonna spend. And
See
then
how
factor that back
disciplined
in.
she is?
Yes.
I love it.
But it takes time to get there. It's
It
not
does
something
take
that-
time.
Yes.
And if you
Yes.
don't do it, it doesn't happen.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
and I
That's true.
guess, for people like Sean, what comes easily is the selling part.
Mhm.
What comes easily for me is the number crunching.
Mhm.
So I really have to.
That's where collaboration comes
Yes.
in.
So I really have to work at marketing and selling, otherwise I don't get out there and I don't sell. I just crunch numbers all the time, which is where my comfort zone is. So
Yeah.
I've gotta
Sure.
get out of that comfort zone to either connect with somebody like Sean to help me sell more,
Yes.
or be more like her, learn from her,
Yes.
and mimic what you're doing that I like.
All right, so everyone, take your phones right now and tweet. Together we are stronger. Let's join hands. You can tweet after you do this. Arms, everybody in the room. Okay. Now I want you to pull on each other. Pull on each other. You feel the strength? Okay, that's how strong we are together. So tweet, together we are stronger. Together we are stronger. Now we're going back to Twitter. You're watching BOCI TV, and we are with expert Nita Black, mapmomentum.com. We encourage you to continue bringing the tweets in at BO Coffee. We have Brenda Green at BOCI Mississippi, who says, I think a lot of home-based businesses do not realize the importance of having a ledger and a business plan. And then she said, agree, so she's asking for your input.
I do agree. I think, and I've worked out of my home off and on. It's easier for me to go to the office and work than it is for me to go to my home office and work. And so I think we have, as home-based businesses, we have to say, I even put it in my calendar, and then I go to my computer in my home office, and that's designated for Project A, Project B, Project C. So it does become a time management. And sometimes, but not very often, like on Saturdays, I will wash clothes and work. But typically, focus on one project at a time. And
So
I
you're
do-
project oriented.
I am very project, and so I treat every activity as a project. So Navo is a project, even though it's nonprofit and I don't get paid for that. And those are hours that I give away of my time. And I also do schedule my family in there, which a lot of people, again, that becomes natural. It's not something you have to schedule to call your grown daughters every day or every week or whatever. And then you've got some families who talk to each other 10 or 12 or 15 times a day. I've got 3 daughters who are very busy, who are working. I'm lucky to get a text from them every day. So, but I do put a reminder in my phone and on my schedule. Have you talked to Angie today? Have you talked to Jenny this week? And if something else is going on, then it becomes more frequently scheduled. If there's a health issue or
Right. And that comes with personality styles, depending on what your personality is, and that's helpful for a lot of people to have things written down. When I write things down, I usually don't have to go back and look again. For some reason, I think I have a phonographic memory. Actually, that would be a photographic memory. But not everybody does. Some people need that task list, and I think it's very important. You had something to say,
I was
Sean.
gonna say, I have always scheduled time in my calendar. I make myself an appointment. Sit down and make those phone calls. Sit down and write those emails. I've never put in my calendar, sit down and work on your budget. So I need to be more like you in that vein.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
admire Nita in that.
And I do, and every day I print out my agenda, or I upload my agenda. I have it a separate sheet in my phone. And I must use it a lot because my children say to me, sometimes you get in the car, can we go here? And they'll say, I know, Mom, it's not on the agenda.
I love that.
So, you must stick to that.
I love that. So time management is very important, is what I'm hearing you say. And back to Brenda's question about the ledger for, she was talking about home-based business. And then we have Melinda here, who, PlexiSlim, by the way, should be up there. I apologize that it didn't make it to the board. But the pink drink, I'm doing a shout out right now that I have lost so many inches with that, with PlexiSlim. And I know you're involved in some other things. And I see you have a question on here, or it may be a comment, that you say, making sense and dollars, how is the best way to evaluate, participate in networking groups, and develop measurements to track successes? Very good question.
Very good question.
Well, we're all pulled to
Yes.
come join this and that is our time.
Right.
And so,
I have that in my schedule. I have one plan that I've done, and Shelley Bauer can attest to that when we did a series of workshops and we tried to prioritize the time that we spent. So if I spend time on Navo, and this is what the annual membership costs, and this is the time of the monthly meetings, and this is the cost of the monthly meetings, and add that up, and is it worth it for me to stay involved? So I balance that against the Germantown Chamber. If it's something that is networking that's not directly impacting my business, like B&I for me is a tool, it's a training opportunity that I pay for that helps me market my business. That is a business expense. All of these costs are business expenses, but the networking organizations, you could drive yourself crazy trying to join all these organizations and go to all their meetings and then
Yes.
never get any business, and
Right.
everybody knows you. But you've
Right.
got to sell, you've gotta figure out how to focus in and sell and where you're gonna make your best connections. And so that, again, comes back into balancing your calendar with how many hours in the month. I really can only be joining two, major networking organizations at a time.
Mhm.
And right now, that's NAWBO and really BOCI is, for me, is another business component.
Mhm.
It's not
And
optional.
it's virtual for you. You do a
Mhm.
lot of virtual things with us as well.
Mhm.
And you talked about sales, and so Sean, one of the things we do with BOCI is we have member liaisons like Gina and so forth that go out, Sarah goes out and goes to these other events, and that's something you had suggested in our business plan. And so, tell us how someone can, I know you do that as well, tell us how someone can do that and really duplicate themselves or clone themselves in their business.
Well, the thing that is really, really important, and this is a theme in everything I do, you'll hear me talk about it, it's really, it's the basis for every action I take is strategy. You have to be strategic about it. When you go to a networking event, when you go to a nonprofit event or something like that, plan ahead. Know who you wanna contact, what kind of connections you wanna make with them, what you wanna talk about, have a strategy to that, how you wanna engage them, and have a plan before you go, so that you know when you go someplace, I would like to meet these 5 people. If you don't know who's gonna be there, there are ways you can probably figure it out. Look at a guest list, or look at previous attendees, look at the pictures,
Mhm.
previous pictures in an event, or look at the board and who's cheering that organization, but have a strategy as to who you want to go to, and then follow through on your strategy.
I like that.
Before I go anywhere, I try to know who's gonna be there and what value I can bring to that person.
Sure. I like the
networking-
word value versus cost versus price. Any comments on that? Nita, what are your thoughts on what Sean just said?
Well, I think in the business plan, you figure out where your best bet is to make those connections. And then which of these organizations connect you with the most value or the most connections or the most targeted, the most important, because you prioritize these types of connections and maybe even specific names. So for instance, Society of Entrepreneurs, for me, may become more of a top level networking event that I should attend. I would prioritize to attend because of the people who attend.
Sure.
So I
And
have
that's
a
your
better
market.
chance, yes.
They're strategically marketing
Right.
to the right people, is
Right.
basically what you're
Yes,
saying.
and so that's part of your strategy, as you would say, in terms of developing which organizations bubble up that help you fulfill the strategy to reach those customers to make more money.
I like that. Graham, you had a question.
It changes the subject a little bit.
That's okay.
And I'm just wondering I know how well organized other people are. Okay. But, I find that my business is encompassing my entire life. I mean, get up in the morning, if you do anything after a certain hour, I'm always thinking, well, I should be doing this, I should be doing this. And so it's completely encompassed, I mean, it's taken up my whole
It does.
life, every single thing.
Yeah.
Is there any way to ever even turn yourself off? Do you get to a point during the day where you say, okay, this
You're
is,
finished, you just
I
stop.
have to make myself
do you
turn
do
myself
that
off.
sometimes, or do
I
you
do.
just go on through the whole day, and when you go to bed, oh, I should have done this, this, and this, and this?
And
you
you're
do your
waking up in
business
the middle of
plan?
the night?
And
Yes.
you wake up in the morning, the first thing you do is checking off your list, I need to do and prioritize.
Right, right.
your
Well, I
whole
think
life.
that, some people call that a workaholic in a way. I think we're all workaholics in that way because we're all entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
But I think part of it is that you give yourself a break and say, it's okay. And ask yourself the question, if I don't get this done today, who does that hurt? How does that hurt me? How does that hurt somebody else? Then you can prioritize and say, today's Sunday. I'm not gonna think about doing all these things for all these other people because this is my time.
Mhm.
Or whatever, you pick your time. And if it's every evening after 5, or every,
Mhm.
you know, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, whatever those times are.
Right.
Particularly in a retail business, I've talked with several people lately, women who, they want to open a retail business, and I encourage them to not just book up all their time in the store, because once you're open 7 days a week, 10-hour days, it's hard to pull back from that. You know, you can grow into it, and you add employees and can grow into it, but help your customers find you during the times that you can serve them. And so that's part of this push and pull in terms of bringing your customers on, but really training them that if I'm closed on Sunday, Monday, there's no need for you to drive out to Lakeland to come to my store, cause I'm closed on Sunday, Monday, but I'm there for you on Tuesday through Saturday.
Right.
So that's easier to do.
Then when
in a
you work from
retail
home,
store,
when
yes.
you're working from home,
Yeah.
I know that I've got to where I will turn my phone off.
Mhm.
And some of us can relate to that because this is a walking computer. Most of my job is done on the computer, okay? And so I have no time with my family, no time for myself, and go ahead,
I have
Melinda.
a question, because back the first year I was doing some studying about time management and transitioning into some different things. Now, my first thought was, and this helped me tremendously, was I can do all things multitask. Always thought that. But what I realized was, on the computer, if I do not structure jumping from working on a project to looking at emails to answering the phone, I don't get anything done well. And what came to me was, is that, you know what, you need to check your emails 3 times a day. You need to check them in the morning, you need to check them in the middle of the day, you need to check
So
them
you schedule
late
it.
afternoon.
And don't get behind.
And you know, and just leave it alone. Don't answer the phone every time it rings. People will learn to either text you, leave you a message, and don't answer a text every time it is, because you're teaching people that you have priorities. And once I changed that, it was amazing what I was able to accomplish.
So you changed the expectations, which is great. I heard someone not too long ago say, and it was a successful person, I cannot remember their name, but it was very impressive to me, and I found it to work. And that is, do not start your mornings with emails.
That's true.
Nita, it might have been you that brought that up through a book.
Mhm.
And so if you do something else, like maybe write a paragraph in a blog or something prior to going to your emails, then you're not completely bogged down from the time you hit that computer. So we only have a few more minutes. We're here until 11 o'clock a.m. Central Standard Time. And we are coming to you from Memphis, Tennessee. Business Over Coffee International. Go to our website at businessovercoffee.com and set up your profile. It's complimentary. And we would like you to continue bringing tweets in at BO Coffee. Brenda Green says, together we are stronger in Mississippi. All right, shout out to Mississippi. And then we have, wow, the selling agency and Sean Carroll Sandy are absolutely just all over it. Same question twice. And then we have Sarah, who is somewhere in the building, and Sarah is in the building, and she is taking photos. So you will be tagged on various photos that are coming out. You can see them online. And she says, focus group, making sense of your business. Then we have Brenda, who also, the comment I read earlier, Melinda, I read that one. Then we go to Brenda Green says, thank you, Nita Black, for the great information. We will be posting a guest from Mississippi soon, Lynn Jordan from Olive Branch, a CPA. We're excited to hear that. Then we have Sarah, who says entrepreneurs are gamblers. That must be something you said.
There was.
Can you elaborate on that?
Well, I think you know an entrepreneur when you meet one. So if you've always worked for someone else,
Well, I think it's the other way around.
You think?
know, when somebody has never worked for anybody,
Yes.
but they're, you know,
yes,
somebody
I would
else.
say, if you have never worked for, except for someone else, then you're probably not, you don't have a true picture of what an entrepreneur is. I know for myself, when I left my banking career in 2000, and I thought I knew everything, and I had all this infrastructure and, to support me, and when I mean, it took me, I learned a lot. I learned what I didn't know. I think it takes guts to run your own business, write checks for your own payroll, you know, book your own health insurance. Some people have just never experienced that, and they don't feel comfortable with it, and they don't want that level of independent or responsibility, yes. And so I think in a sense, you've gotta, you know, be willing to stick your big toe in the water and then jump in.
Too much freedom for some people.
Yes, and Marcella, I know you're not tweeting, but did you have a question?
Actually, they've all been asked.
Have they? Okay, did you have any comments? What's your takeaway today?
I like her how she has approached the home-based business. That was basically what I was listening for, 'cause I think we're a little bit different than somebody who actually owns a franchise, so to speak.
Right.
Or a storefront.
Sure.
I have a question. Have you ever put together something about customer acquisition cost?
What?
Customer acquisition costs, like in different types of businesses?
In a home-based
or-
business, because one of the things, and like what Marcella would do, is you acquire a customer, the value of that customer is purchasing month after month after month. So in an annual period, what that would be. In the painting industry, I heard this, you know, it's not about somebody coming to paint your house once, but acquiring that customer for 5, 10, 15 years, what's the value of that customer?
Interesting. Well, I've read, and I've worked with people in terms of scalability and what types of revenue streams create growth and ongoing growth and repetitive growth. And so there is some personally have not written anything on it. I think from a home-based standpoint, it is more discipline than anything else. It's organizing where you love to go to your work area. It's clean, it's organized, it's colorful, it makes me happy, I wanna go in there, I wanna get a lot done, and I focus on that. That for me, that works. For you, it may be something different. It may be, and I think it depends on what you want out of your home-based business. If it's a hobby, if it's something you just wanna, I don't know if any of you have been to Caritas Village, but it's amazing how the owner there, you can get an order for a necklace for $25, and there is no sense of urgency at all, because they just really like to help people. They like to sew, they like talking with each other while they sew, and there is no sense of urgency to deliver that request for that necklace. And so I think you do have some people who, that's the way they wanna live their lives, and don't bother me about changing it. And that's okay too, you know, and I would say that everybody's different, and I would say that there really are no perfect people, right? So, I have not done all the things that I say are the best things to do. I try to work toward that, and I think that's, again, in a home-based business, maybe you feel alone if you're serious about growing your business and you feel fairly isolated, and you gotta keep pumping yourself up. You just have to keep.
Absolutely,
Well, I think that's one of the
Very important.
attractions
Self-talk.
to things like this, is because you get to sit down with other entrepreneurs, and you get to get their input and their help on helping you grow or work on that area that you need help with. Maybe you're helping them work on an area they need help with.
Sure, and you have worked with Beverly as well. Beverly, did you have any questions?
No, I was just really relating to that, how I do feel isolated at my home design studio. And that's why I stay very plugged in here. I come, you know, religiously every Thursday. I benefit so much, and I have some to give too.
Yes, you
Yes.
do,
It's-
yes.
It's one of the best pieces of advice I've ever taken and I've ever given, and when I talk about, building yourself as a professional, building your business, is to get a tribe. Seth Godin wrote a book about tribes, and this is a tribe. You have people that you can trust, who you trust with your ideas to care, take, nurture, and feed those, and feed you. And so that is true, that's a very big point of isolation when you're a solopreneur. You don't have a store full of employees or people, and even being the boss is very isolating too.
Yes, right.
But get a tribe of
I
people
love that.
who
Great
don't have to think the
advice.
same way you do, maybe even just challenge you, but, you know, to compliment you. I'm all big picture strategy, sales and marketing, and you're crunching the numbers. I need to
Right.
rub up against Nita a little more.
Right, absolutely. Beverly?
Does that also relate to a dream team or not? Or is
Oh,
that
sure,
really-
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, I think so.
Tribes, advisors, mentors,
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and then we go to Clarice, who is writing feverishly, and yes, I'm sure she's getting a lot of good information, but she's actually blogging, so you will be reading her blog on our site, businessovercoffee.com. What questions do you have?
Well, I had a question about the worksheet that you shared with us that I love. Okay. How does that relate to a profit loss statement?
It's bits and pieces.
I got shocked into doing a profit loss statement. I didn't know what, I was like, oh my God. I'm talking about after the fact.
Uh-huh.
Okay, not before, you know, so, I mean, if I had done your worksheet, maybe.
Well, do you have an accounting background?
Absolutely
Not.
not.
Okay.
That was the,
And so if you understand that you've got components in this financial world where the balance sheet and the P&L and then all these ratios, they all tie together. So they're all pieces of the puzzle that tie together. So to have one without the other, I've given you bits and pieces of ratios and how to calculate ratios. That's this component over here. Then you've got your P&L, what cash comes in, or profits, sales and expenses and profits or losses. And then your balance sheet is what you own and what you owe. And so bits and pieces of this come over here, bits and pieces of this come over here, and then you try to figure out, so it is all intertwined, and you just take one baby step at a time and get familiar with, and then get support if you need it.
And remember, Anita is here to
That's what I was
support
just
all
gonna
of
say,
us.
Miss Black
In
right
fact,
here.
those of you who are watching from around the world, you can contact Nita Black through mapmomentum.com. And we are wrapping up. We have 60 seconds left, and so we're going to Twitter. We're going to talk about that once we go off the air. We are shouting out to Brenda and Glenn Green, as well as other followers that we have. We have Andre Farr and Lynn Taylor, I believe from the Nashville area, that have followed us. There's a lot of activity going on out there on Twitter. So go to Twitter at BO Coffee and follow us, and continue to send your questions in. If it's a question that we do not know the answer to, we will get that to Nita Black. See, I get nervous when I'm talking about numbers, so I'm gonna send those over to her. And we thank you for joining us today, and we encourage you again to go to our website at businessovercoffee.com and set up your complimentary profile. I'm going to get it out in a moment. And everyone here, did you enjoy this today?
Right.
Yes, this was awesome. So remember, making sense, CENTS, of your business, you can find out through Nita Black, mapmomentum.com. We're signing off for today. Sherry Henley, bringing everyone together. God bless you.